this session, we're going over part 3 of 3 of the book. We're having a look at the different tips in that particular section that resonate with the guests that are joining me today. So who are going to be joining me today? We've got AJ Wilcox, Alex Techlova, Brad Geddes, and Kirk Williams. So let us see who happens to be in the house. And we have Brad just there. Hello, Brad. How are you doing?
Good.
Good
Are you
stuff.
enjoying your day?
I am indeed. Yes, having a nice, relaxing day. And yourself, you're looking very relaxed on that comfortable seat as well.
You know what? I've had like 5 hours of calls, so this isn't relaxed. This is like exhausted, and you're kind of like, I'm kicked back now after this long of a day.
So we'll get AJ hopefully joining us just the next few minutes or so. AJ, if you're watching. And we can only have 3 guests as part of the live panel, so just bear with us. Alex needs to go to her bed pretty soon because she's been working.
It's 10 p.m. here.
Yes. So
but
Alex,
I'm very excited to be here. So thanks for asking me to join you, David. You are doing just a great job. I could only imagine how hard it could be doing it and putting everything together. So congrats.
Well, you've done quite a few similar crazy things yourself as well. So
yeah. But now we are offline. We are doing crazy things offline.
I know, that's right. Yeah, still crazy things.
Yeah,
I'll give Alex a quick introduction. So Alex Techlova is a link building, digital PR, and dressage expert. She's also founder of Digital Olympus, and you can find her over at alextechlova.com. So thanks again for joining us. We'll, of course, give AJ a bit of an introduction when he comes on the screen there. But Brad Geddes, he's a PPC geek and author of Advanced Google AdWords. He's co-founder of Analysis, and you can find him over at bgtheory.com. Thank you, Brad.
Thanks for having me, David.
And Kirk as well. So Kirk Williams is a PPC marketing and shopping ads expert. He's the owner of paid search micro agency Zato, and you can find him over at zatomarketing.com. Hello, Kirk.
Hello, all. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic to have you all here. So we're, of course, as I mentioned, going over part 3 of the book, Marketing Now, as if I haven't got enough images of it in front of the screen there. We've got about 40 odd tips shared in each section of the book, and in this particular section, part 3, we're focusing in on promotional success. So that covers quite a few different elements there as well, and there are loads of great tips there. I mentioned at the beginning of this broadcast that at the end of the book I highlight 10 tips that particularly resonate with me. But that's not saying that those 10 tips are the best tips. Now, I've asked each of our guests just to hone in on 2 tips that most resonate with them. It's not to say that those are the best tips as well. That those are the tips that happen to resonate with them. And I'm sure if you read the book too, then there are going to be different tips that are going to be right for you. But this is just something just to start your thought process. So, Alex, let's start with you. Out of that section in the book, what jumped out as being something that was of particular interest to you?
I think, I'd love to stick with this personal branding and growing your personal awareness as a brand, because I think it's very important. And as early you could start doing it, the better results you will reach at the very end. Also, I think it's sometimes, actually, my good friend Luca, he asked some quite well-known digital marketers about how guest blogging is affecting their personal brand, and a lot of people they confirm that guest blogging is a real thing, and I think that's among my favorite tactics. Even though you're not going to receive tons of referral traffic, which is among the first expectations among people that are doing guest blogging, still there are tons of great things like growing your network, connecting with the right people, as well as becoming more visible across your target audience, as well as that real social proof of being you as a real expert, because clients, they always want to work with proven vendors and people that really know what they do, and those guest posts, they are like a real proof of your knowledge. So that will be my biggest tip about what you could do if you're really interested in just I don't know whether you'd love to connect with the right people or you just want to be more visible.
So when you're talking about personal branding, I mean, you said affecting your personal brand. You obviously mean guest blogging affecting your personal brand positively.
Yeah, definitely. Well, it might negatively if you do poor quality content. That's it's connected. So don't do don't hire cheap copywriters. Do it on your own. Otherwise, it might backfire you. Even though it's going to be tons of guest posts, they're not going to be really appreciated by your target audience. So yeah.
So from your perspective, obviously there are different positives to guest blogging. You could get links out of it. You could
obviously.
You could increase your audience out of it as well. But from your perspective, do you think that the biggest positive for guest blogging is actually the relationships that you build with the owners of the blogs that you're doing the blogging on?
Owners, contributors that also might help you contribute to other blogs. For instance, me and Kirk, we are both writing to Search Engine Journal. So, technically, I could ask Kirk to just, to connect with someone else if he writes to other blogs, or Kirk could ask me to connect with the Moz blog where I contribute. So, it's easier to ask for a favor because you've already established some connections. So you could use in different ways, but they're very, I think one of the biggest things is definitely relationships. You're right.
And is the value of doing this just as same as it used to be? Because obviously guest blogging has been around for quite a few years. There are other forms of marketing now. There are other guesting opportunities now, such as guesting on podcast episodes. Do you think guest blogging is just as effective as it used to be?
I think it's still people, even though we have a tendency to switch to some other forms of content, and a lot of users say that they would rather consume videos instead of written content. Still, written content makes a lot of sense, especially in terms of ranking in Google. So if someone search for your name so an intention is not on really to find something like video content or just to read something, or you are somewhere. Let's imagine you're in a public transport, so you don't have an ability to just to listen to a podcast right now or to watch a video. So obviously written content will be a good option. I mean, it depends for sure. And also scripts, even podcasts and video, they could be turned into written content, but it takes some time and an effort. So it's it's about also content repurposing. But I think written content is great due to just, due to a ranking factor, since you could rank to, so your name will be associated with some relevant keywords. So for instance, I write a lot of posts about link building. So my name is associated with link building, which can be not so easy to deliver through podcasts or videos if they don't have if they are not transcripted.
So what if you don't like writing? Is it still a good medium to aim for? I.e., if you're not going to be doing the writing yourself, is it possible, is it a good idea to get someone else to write the content on your behalf and then you to submit that content to guest blogs? Actually,
that's my case. I don't write. I am not really a good copywriter, but I have some ideas and I know how to take the right angle, but I'm not really good with putting together the words and making it nice. And I'm quite lazy. So what I do, I just write an extended draft, and I have copywriters, very good editors, basically. I don't need like a ghost writer, because I control everything. So I write a very extended drafts, and I select topics on my own. But yeah, I have an editor who's just doing the rest of work and making it looks very good.
This is turning into me interviewing Alex here, but I've got one more question here.
Absolutely.
And if you do get someone else to write the content for you, how do you ensure that they have the right tone of voice to reflect how you come across?
I try to write quite extended ones, so I have some tone inside it. So, I put it. So, but I just, I write, for instance, I write down some intro, which is actually kind of controls the tone of your post. So you need to write an intro, which is true, but then you could say, okay, please connect those two thoughts so they are going to have a natural flow and something like that. So you just put together some ideas and don't care about the flow. So the flow is something that an editor should take care. Plus, you need to add personal stories to make it very, if you want to really make a good content, ensure adding your personal stories, because they really, especially if we talk about B2B content, which is quite boring, being honest. Your personal stories could add some remarkable, kind of moments, or really feel it with emotions. Just what Talia Wolf's actually, I really like Talia, and she talks a lot about emotional triggers and emotional content, and she's very right. We don't need to think about B2B content as a B2B content. We just need to make it also emotional as B2C one as well. And we lost a little bit David.
Well, Alex, you've shared a very interesting perspective there, and kind of gone deeper into guest posts and why they exist and what the benefits are and how to actually do them. So really appreciate that. So AG is going to be coming on and replacing you there, but thanks again for coming on. Where can the viewer find out more about you?
I think the best way to connect with me on Twitter, on LinkedIn, or you can straight go to the digitalolympus.net. That's our offline conference, and it's going to happen here in Europe. And if you want to come, you still have a chance to do that for free of charge, because we are giving away 200 passes. So you can go there and submit. And even if you can't come because you might be based somewhere quite far away, you still can join our live stream, which is 100% free of charge as well. So you just drop your email and we will send a link to our live stream just when closer to the date of our conference. Thank you very much, David, for having me. I appreciate having me today, and it was really great to chat about guest blogging.
Thanks for coming, Alex. Good to talk to you, and we'll catch up again.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, bye-bye. Okay, great. Sorry for keeping you guys silent for so long there as well, but I thought I'd give Alex the opportunity to head off early and go to bed, being in St. Petersburg, so she's a little bit later than all of us. So hopefully AJ will be joining us soon. I think he'll be connecting in the next few minutes. If you're not AJ, then just leave and come back, and we'll certainly get you on. But Brad, from your point of view, looking into this last section of the book, part 3, promotion of success, what tip from there particularly resonated with you?
Yeah, I have 2, but I'm going to start with the one which actually started my day, because I was having a conversation about this with Aaron Levy, which probably many of you know, and that was to whiteboard your objectives to figure out how to get there. Right, because this is the problem with data flow these days, is we want to do this, and we have to figure out how to get here. But that means we have data from X, Y, and Z coming into here, and this data needs to then move to this place and this place, and then it needs to get there so we can even measure our objectives. And if you don't know your data, You don't know if you're getting better, you're getting worse, whatever, right? And so I would have to say, like your tip specifically, whiteboard it out. I have a whiteboard here. I have a whiteboard over there, which you can't see. The scribbles everywhere. AJ's got a whiteboard, although his looks like it's art. But anyway, right? Mine's never art. Mine's just scribbles. But that way you can start to say, okay, this has to talk to this. This talks to this. Here's where we lose data. You're erasing things. You're putting things back. And so having, whiteboarding your data to know your objectives was one of my favorites in the last few chapters.
So,
Kirk, buy one. You can even get a cheap one for like $10 that plasters to the wall, or they make whiteboard paint, or I've got my other wall, which you can't see, is magnetic whiteboard paint. So I can even take magnets and stick it up on the wall, right, to say, hey, here's the big arrows that aren't even on the whiteboard part.
Have you tried using an online tool, Brad, or do you always find that whiteboards are better for some reason?
So I will use online tools for graphing the pieces, so to share with other people. And Liquid. I have a favorite, which names escapes me at the moment, but I always whiteboard them first so I know what it looks like, because the online tool is super useful, easy to share things, obviously, than taking a picture, easy to manipulate once you have an idea of the framework. Until you have the initial framework, you're moving too many pieces around that I find that the online ones take me longer than erasing real quick and drawing something else.
AJ, have you found that as well? Obviously, you're a massive fan of whiteboards.
I have. I've found that there are certain things that I can do very, very quickly, tactily. So I do have a paper notebook I write things in. I do kind of whiteboard things out when there's a diagram that needs to be done. I train all of my teams with drawings on whiteboards. But certainly, if I'm taking notes for reference, that's all going to be digital. So I'm pretty well split.
Okay, and Kirk, you can't afford a whiteboard.
Yeah, no, they're a little out of my price range, so we're saving up for that.
Yeah, they're like $8 if you get like the super cheapy one. Lucid Chart, that's the one. There it is. Lucid Chart's the one that I like. That's an online one. It's more of a diagram than it is a whiteboard, though.
Do you do something similar online, Kirk?
I've historically more been a note taker digitally, but I'm intrigued. I mean, I'm aware of the whiteboarders out there, and I don't know. Maybe I'll have to noodle around in it sometime. Try it.
I hate paper. There's no paper in my office, right? Except a shredder to get rid of the paper that shows up in my office somehow, right? So I agree in the paper part, but there's something about the whiteboarding that's so much easier. I find, like, I'm not a paper noter. When Evernote first came out, that I could sync a note across 3 mediums in 2004. I was a beta user. I was like, finally, whiteboards are different. You should invest in one. So
that was Brad's
I'll have to.
tip, or that was the tip that resonated with Brad. Sorry, AJ, what tip jumped out at you?
Well, my very first favorite one is from Joe Martinez on page 178, where he talks about custom intent audiences on. And sorry, I actually take notes on these. Where he talks about custom intent audiences on YouTube, because I mean, if you told me that I could get access to my competitors' retargeting, to be able to access that, I would just be so excited about it. And YouTube, we've been able to do this for a year or two now, and it's just not being leveraged as much, just simply because you've got to have like good creative in order to use it, and it's not available across the rest of the Google network. It's YouTube only. So I love that one. That was great advice.
Superb. And Kirk, what was the one that jumped out at you?
I'm finding my brain is going here in a lot of places right now, and so it's interesting to see this in the book as well. A lot of other people are thinking this way. I was looking. I first saw it from JD Prater. He says making sure you're testing less well-trodden opportunities. So that's good. That's not what I'm talking about. And focus more on top of funnel. And then I saw it elsewhere as well in terms of in terms of this idea of let's get back to marketing and not just being engineering and data scientists, because there's going to be issues with. Are you able to hear me? I keep seeing lots of movement. Oh, good. Thank you. Sorry, wasn't sure. I saw waving, so either I thought I was doing a really great job or no one could hear me.
Really good job. Yeah.
Yeah. No. So just this idea, and that's actually what spawned. I just wrote an article on Marketing Land a couple weeks back in response to, I think it was an article in the Correspondent. They're saying digital advertising is the marketing bubble. And I don't think it is. I think actually improper attribution is. But I think that this idea that we've had, especially in paid search, but across all digital marketing, that we can track everything. We know exactly what's going on, and therefore, because it's math, 2 + 2, let's assign the perfect. Let's allocate the perfect amount of dollars to exactly that. And I think that especially more and more as privacy laws kick in, more and more stuff like GDPR, whatever the one in California is that's going now, the name for it, that's going to, I think, increase as well. So it's going to be harder and harder to actually have good data tracked. But then also just this idea of attribution itself having major holes that a lot of times either we don't talk about or don't realize in terms of what can be tracked, people dropping off left and right. And so I think that some of that means, going back to Brad's let's whiteboard this out, some of that might mean, hey, we need to get back to this idea of let's figure out a way to develop a really just a solid marketing story about our product or our service. Let's develop that. Let's create that. Let's have this really good thing that we present well. And then we allocate budget, and that we have that strategy that goes through all the different channels, but less obsessed with tracking everything down to this exact tracked attribution, ROAS, return on ad spend. A little bit more willing to have some risk, have some getting back to marketing, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. And I saw that in some of these tips through here as well that I think is a good idea. And I think that's going to be more and more crucial that we as digital marketers do that in our channels. Yeah, as I think as time goes on, that's going to become better and better. We need to be better marketers, not just engineers.
When you say be better marketers, does that mean not focus any time on integrating marketing efforts with sales and customer service? Because a lot of what HubSpot are talking about at the moment with their flywheel exercise is marketing is part of the flywheel, but so is sales and so is customer service and the business model. And you need to have a good understanding of each of those three areas and work closely together in order to be successful in the modern digital economy. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with that. I don't think I'm pushing back on that. I think I'm pushing back more on, and I just feel like especially I see this in paid search, like we've become so obsessed with the data and what it shows, and will changing these 3 words in this ad decrease our CPA by 0.5%? And if so, hooray, we've won. And not really like having that kind of bigger picture strategic, like, no, this is actually the marketing story that this brand is telling, and we believe in this. And frankly, sometimes, and I know this is going to really offend a lot of people, but sometimes that might mean like continuing that story in our ads, finding those great audiences, even if that exact tracked revenue or sales or conversion rate or that doesn't act in the way that we believe it should. And I think, again, pushing back a little bit even on even attribution, and we've kind of made attribution and our ability to do that, which by the way works directly into automated bidding and that as well. We've made that into like the marketing god, and I don't really know if it should be. And I think in some ways, whether or not we think this, like I was saying, even like you look at where privacy is pushing into this, privacy is going to start making it harder and harder to track all this and all that as well. Yeah, so I think hopefully that makes a little more sense. I guarantee you AJ and Brad have some thoughts on that as well, but yeah, that's where my head's been a lot lately as well. And that had to do with that article I wrote. saying, the correspondent, they put out this article saying, hey, digital marketing is this bubble. And that for me, it's kind of like, it's not the bubble. Like, it's just marketing. It's just another channel of advertising. But I do think that our obsession with thinking that we can track everything is so.
Yeah, I certainly saw AJ nodding his head away to a lot of what you were saying there. Did anything that you disagree with at all, or you would like to add to, AJ?
No, I totally agree. In thinking about digital marketing, I think we have this concept that so much of this is new, and it's because the platforms are new and the audiences are changing. But the principles of marketing have been the same, since the beginning of man. It's all about getting your right message to the right person at the right time. And so I think the sooner we realize exactly what Kirk just mentioned, that this digital marketing, it's just another way of getting your message out, and we can get really good at it and we can take advantage of it. But certainly the rules haven't changed. The rules are the same as they've always been.
Definitely. And Brad, what would you like to add to this?
Yeah, so Rob Norman, who is the CEO of WPM for years, right? One of the massive agencies, had said, in the age of digital assistants and the age when people ask for things and the age of too much data, marketers will move from being intelligence workers, right, working with data, to imagination workers, right, which means we're imagining the stories we should tell and how it should go. So Kirk's idea was written up in a Think with Google article by Rob Norman a while ago, which you should totally read. It's worthwhile, looking at the evolution and how the stories are more important than the data, especially when you ask an assistant for something and there is no middleman, there is no ad, right? The assistant ships. What did you ask for? That's the story.
Love it. I think we could drill further into this, but shall we maybe select another tip each and see if we can find out something different and drill into that? Kirk, would you like to select another tip and let us know why that resonated with you?
I would love to. Let's see. So actually, funny enough, on the page directly opposite of JD Prater's, I thought Aaron Levy's really resonated with me. Because we have been building PPC campaigns for years a certain way, and we really have started to shift, in some ways kind of rethinking how we build campaigns, how we structure them, how we think about that story and work that into how we're going to actually make things successful in an account for a client. We've actually been totally shifting how we build campaigns, especially as we do start to implement automation more as well. So I thought that was a really good note. His tip was build your campaigns with automation in mind. And I think we'll see that one very specific way, and then I'll shut up, would be, it's been much more common in the past for PPCers, and this was because we saw a lot of benefit from this. We'd go in to an account and we'd get super granular and we'd find like the best keywords or whatever it might be. And we just build those out ad nauseum and segment over segment and segment. And like, hey, there was a lot of stuff that worked. There's just a lot that's happening more and more with keyword close variant stuff, automated bidding, all that stuff that, even if we still wanted to do that, we just don't see that work like it used to. And so I think that we need to be kind of rethinking how we see this, especially with automation. So good job, Aaron.
And build your campaigns with automation in mind, Kirk. Is that the same for every platform, for most paid advertising platforms?
That's a good question. So my expertise is specifically in paid search. So that's where mostly what I can answer to. Someone like, AJ, who does a lot with social, could probably, answer that better. But that's where I think what I would say, more on pulling back a little bit more on a philosophical way, it would be, what are you automating and why? And then think about how that would work into building a campaign. So if there's a lot of automation, like in paid search, about bidding, and bidding specifically for return on ad spend, profit, with, let's say, my shopping campaigns, that probably means I want to think through organizing my shopping campaigns in a way that similar products with similar ROAS goals and that are together to help the machine, to give the machine kind of better signals to group these things together and treat them the same. So I don't know if that helps, but that's one example.
Sure, that's good. Thanks. And AJ, from a LinkedIn perspective, is that something that you would focus on as well? Try and get as much automation in there as possible.
Right now, I don't rely on LinkedIn's automation. They're pretty new to the AI and machine learning game. And so basically what it means is, sorry if anyone's listening from LinkedIn, when you use one of their tools, machine learning needs a lot of data and it needs a lot of varied data. And so if you're using their tools right now, you are the guinea pig. Like you are allowing your campaigns to bid up to $25 a click. So we tend to ignore those whenever possible. Certainly testing them just to see if there's gold. But we know that LinkedIn's usually about 4 years behind Facebook. And what we see with Facebook right now is incredible. You have these amazing marketers who used to be so meticulous about how they would break all of their targeting up by every little piece, just trying to understand more about who that audience is. And that's what I do on LinkedIn right now. These great marketers are finding that if they just go broad and let the machine bid, let Facebook find who's interested and who is actually in the market for these things, they end up getting lower costs and better performance. So I expect to see the same thing from LinkedIn maybe 3-4 years from now. But for right now, I do trust Facebook. I might be the only person on the planet who trusts Facebook.
And focusing on Facebook, is there a certain length of time or amount of money that you have to spend before the automation can be as reliable as possible?
Yeah, I sure think so. I don't know what that amount is, just because I'm not spending all too much time in Facebook. But certainly the machine needs to understand, especially if you are bidding by conversions, the machine needs to see a lot of conversions in order to start making smart decisions. So you would do that before you'd ever turn on a conversion-focused campaign. But then as you're working, I think the rule I've heard is you need to be, let it go for a week or two so that the machine can start optimizing.
Great. Brad, what are your thoughts on this? Are there any networks that you're working with that you can offer some advice on with regards to whether or not you would completely trust it and just let it run your campaigns for you?
So I'm gonna pivot your comment a little bit here. So the question is, do you believe in its outcomes? Are you measuring its outcomes, not just does it look good on the surface? Right. So what we'll see in some networks is on the surface, it looks like it's doing great. When you dig into it, the incremental conversions have like super high returns or have really low average values, and others doing great. So I would really say to understand if Facebook works for you, if LinkedIn, if Google, if whoever, you need to have a framework for auditing the machine against like different variables and having confidence you understand what the machine does, how it's performing, when it stops performing, what trips it up, right? Every place is different. And like our conversion tracking breaks for a week on Google, we know our conversions are messed up. Facebook has a different lookalike window. They're actually a little better when conversion tracking doesn't work for a few days. So that's where I think you really need to understand it's not machine learning, right? It's this algorithm for this system does this, and here's how we make sure it's continuing to work properly for us. I think that's one of the most important questions with all this.
Okay, so we'll come to another couple of tips. Back to AJ first, then back to Brad. So AJ, do you have another tip that you'd like to share?
Yeah, in chapter 12, Jill Quick talked about how we can be amazing at our jobs, but still screw stuff up if we haven't crossed disciplines. And I love that because, I'm obviously a marketer who has made his career off of a single channel, a single platform. So I call myself lovingly a one-trick pony. But I
was
have
impressed that you managed to mention Facebook, though.
thanks. But what I've found is that because of my experience in all different areas of digital marketing, I'm able to integrate with other departments better, work with other agencies better, and actually serve my customers better just because LinkedIn ads is not the only thing I know. And so I absolutely loved her approach on that. And Damon Gochner talked about how you find what gets you excited. Go ahead and chase those things. And right now, I'm really excited about stuff that's not LinkedIn related. I'm really excited about Google Data Studio and Python programming and like VBA macros in Excel and all this stuff. While I can sure make it help me do my job better, it's a fun pursuit that gets me excited about what I'm doing again. And I think ultimately it will help my campaigns, my clients, my company. So
do you allocate a certain percentage of your time to researching areas like that, or do you just I guess spend time on it when you feel it's necessary?
It's neither, actually. I end up spending time on it whenever my brain decides to dig deep and not let me come up for air. It's oftentimes like early morning where that will just drag on until my meetings start for the day, or late at night when I just won't let myself go to bed. They're the kinds of pursuits that you get after and just get so excited about them that you can't sleep.
And Kirk, so how do you go about keeping abreast of digital marketing or marketing activities in other areas not directly related to paid search? And how do you go about allocating your time to learn in those areas?
It's funny. I was actually just thinking of this now while AJ was talking, and it hit me. Probably the best way that I've learned other disciplines is through a couple of our hobby, other businesses that we have going. So we had started a co-working space a year ago that we were trying to get off the ground, and my wife has a photography business. And so in some ways I've found that I've learned a little bit more about some of these other things, some of the social advertising, SEO, things like that, just because of kind of that. At that point, I'm like a small business owner or assisting my wife, who's a small business owner, and trying to figure this stuff out just like anyone else out there. And it is pretty amazing what you can accomplish on your website and getting something, put in with CSS or that you didn't know. And you're so excited. It's 2 a.m. and you finally figure it out. You finally crack it and it works how you want. It's awesome. So maybe get a hobby that you can do that with.
Brad, is it a good idea to have a hobby site and use that as a way to just learn different types of marketing?
I love them, right? My worst days are when I start. So I love creating stuff, and so if I'm making a new site, I'll wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I got the CSS, or I know what I want to do, right? And no coffee, or maybe I brew a cup of coffee, and I'm a coffee drinker, right? I'm in there coding in the morning, right? Taking off, and no, those early mornings, all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got a meeting I totally forgot about, but I don't care because this was so much fun. I think they're great. I've been teaching paid search for 15 years and analytics for 15 years. So with whether it's Avinash or Eisenberg or whatever, right? So there's a lot of, hey, you get too far behind, you need a more course curriculum. You're keeping up day to day, then you don't, but that's where your LinkedIn feed, search cat by search engine land, which I love, and so forth, keep you up on those nuances. But it's the T-shaped marketer, what AJ's talking about, right? Which is, a discipline well, but if you're good at paid search, you have to know analytics a little bit. You have to be an okay writer, hopefully a good writer. If you start to understand email, right, the basics, then you can work better with how the autoresponder system's set up. You start to know SEO, you understand then how AMP can really work and how you can do some title tag testing and make them better. You don't need to be an expert, but having a 101, 201 knowledge of the other disciplines, everyone's so much better at what they do.
And what about if someone's just starting out in digital marketing? Is it better that they zero in on one?
Yes.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, Because you know what? If you're a little good with analytics and a little good with Google and a little good at social, you're a spammer losing money on broad match and can't read your data. So you know what? Yeah, you got to know a little bit of something, right?
You've been asked that question before. Okay, it's Brad's turn to, I guess, select the final tip. So do you have one more tip in mind from that?
You know what? So let's go back to one Kirk alluded to earlier, right? Which is look at some of the smaller networks, right, and how they do. When I started, and if you've got gray hair, you remember when I started. There was no Google. You had Overture or GoTo.com, AltaVista, Find What, and Google launched. And you know what? They were different, and everyone hated them. They were a little network no one liked, right? So the Google people who started paid search when Google was around liked it. Those who started Overture hated it because it was so different, right? And then you get stuck in your ways. And then Facebook launches. Now, when Facebook launched, their organization was awful, right? It was so bad. People who understood paid search couldn't wrap their minds around starting with an ad and then doing targeting because it was so backwards from how Google did it, right? Just the interface. And then, LinkedIn came out. We could talk LinkedIn, Pinterest, Reddit. We still have this long tail of networks that they're not all going to work for you, right? But if you ignore all these other networks, you really don't understand how everything fits together, how that journey works. Kind of going back to what Kirk was saying earlier about here's our story, right? And when you look at how people do, so if they make search on Google, they go to Reddit to see, hey, are these reviews actually legit? What do you guys think about this? They jump over to Pinterest to get some ideas. They come back and search on Google again. And if you ignore everything, you're very myopic and you're missing how people interact in that entire, wandering journey, right, of being lost in the woods people really go through to convert.
So advertisers,
look at the smaller networks.
Yeah, advertisers that just focus on Google ads are missing out significantly.
And you know what? If Google changes the policy tomorrow and you lose your traffic, are you out of business? Or do you have a recovery plan, right? We talk data recovery plans. Do you have a marketing recovery plan?
And what about agencies that specialize in just one network? Maybe Facebook specialist agencies. Sorry, AJ.
What do you think, AJ?
Well, honestly, it's something I think about quite regularly. Like, what happens when LinkedIn gets too expensive, or if someday they just say, you know what, the advertising game's not for us, and then quit. What is my backup plan? And I like the fact that because I have a varied level of experience in marketing, I could go heavy into other social ads. I could go pick another network like Quora and just dive super deep and super invest in that. But I like the single network just because it's easy to gain notoriety and become an expert very quickly. But certainly just realize the marketing landscape is always going to change, and you've got to have a plan B.
Well, and with agencies, it's different because your clients come and go. When you're in-house and you lose access to a network, that's much different because you may not have a fallback plan, right? So I think there's a big difference on a single company relying on a single channel versus an agency who can get new clients and rely on a single channel. But if you're Pinterest only and Pinterest like, we're going to stop doing likes, and you were a like Pinterest agency, well, your entire business is gone, right? Overnight.
And to me, that goes also back to some of the other conversations we've had in terms of things like T-shaped marketer, as well as even originally the understanding marketing, getting good at being a marketer, right? And not just, how to change bids in one platform. Because like what I found, we're basically like AJ, we're kind of a one-trick pony. We got paid search here, and that's what we do. And I was a little nervous to do that. And I've actually kind of started to embrace that for now, because it has been a great way of saying, look, this is what we're good at, and this is what we want to grow our network with this. Like, we're growing personal branding, networking, all that. And then if stuff changes, we also have this entity of this network and personal brand and that we've built up. And, hopefully in terms of T-shaped marketer, we have, as AJ was saying, a good idea of a few other disciplines as well. We understand how that all works. And then we understand just how to do good marketing. Like if you are great at setting bids in a certain channel, but it's because you really understand how to see a business, a product or service, think through how to tell a great story to connect with their audience and sell that product. Like you're valuable, and you've built up that network, and you're okay. Like you'll be able to evolve and adapt with the changes. And I think that's kind of how we've looked at it, and it doesn't stress me out too much. Although it would be interesting if Google Ads, dropped out. I'd have to figure something out.
Did you
Let's be
start?
honest. Google's sticking around. I'm just gonna say it.
Few years.
Kurt, did you start as a general digital marketing agency and then move into paid search, or did you tend to just focus on paid search?
We've focused on paid search, but a couple of years back, I looked into, even hired for, and kind of specifically began building out social, specifically Facebook, and really spent a bit of time, energy, money, and all that kind of thinking about building that out. And there's lots of reasons for a different conversation, but just decided at some point to say, you know what, that's not really me. That's not really what I'm trying to do. Let's keep this thing small. Let's just stick with what we're good at, paid search. But some of why I thought back in the day of adding social was, frankly, this is a few years back. This was especially when everyone's saying Facebook is, the game changer. It's going to kill Google, all that stuff. And so that was us in some ways looking at that saying, whoa, are we going to need to adapt or die? Now, a few years back, now a few years later, I'm even less worried that that's the case. So
do you think clients are more likely to respect the fact that you're a paid search specialist and experts in that, or because they like you, request that they do other digital marketing services with you?
We have found that the right ones respect what we're trying to do and hire us. So, and I don't even mean the right like they're doing something wrong in some ways, maybe a little bit, but for the most part, I mean just right, like probably who we're going to work well together, sees that, they like it, and they have the ability to maybe engage with a few different agencies and it works out well. Yeah, there are going to be those who contact us and then find out all we do is paid search. They say, no, actually, we want someone who's going to do all of everything. LinkedIn, Facebook, SEO, PPC, all that. And then that's not what we do. Good luck finding someone who do really well at all of those at the same time, and sayonara.
So obviously, if you're just doing paid search, do you work closely with other specialist agencies to service the client's needs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
we do, yeah. And that's actually been a great way to even just share referrals and leads in that. Yeah, so. Great
stuff. I like zeroing in on conversations, when we're talking about specific things like that. Gents, I really appreciate you coming on. I think it was a really interesting discussion that we had there. Kirk, would you like to just share with the audience where they can find out more about you?
Sure. I'm PPC Kirk pretty much everywhere, Twitter, LinkedIn, all that. And so you can find me there, or zatomarketing.com.
Wonderful stuff. Thanks again. And AJ, thanks for coming on as well. Can you share your maybe social profiles and website?
No. Yeah, sure.
Okay, no, that's all right. Okay, you had your opportunity. No.
I'm easy to get a hold of on Twitter. I'm WilcoxAJ there, and then if you want to email me, the trick is just go to the website b2linked.com, fill out the contact form anywhere on the site, and it just goes directly to my inbox. And I'm not a sales guy, so ask any question you want.
Good stuff. And Brad, thanks for coming on as well. Where can people get hold of you?
BG Theory on Twitter, or Adalysys, ADALYSIS.com is where we blog and have obviously our software and everything.
Wonderful stuff. Okay, much appreciated again. Thanks for coming on. I'm going to go to the green room for the next session. Just bear in mind that if you hang about here, you'll be hanging about live. That's the way that Crowdcast works until you actually go off and leave. But I'm going to head off just now. So thanks again. And for anyone in the audience, just hang around exactly where you are. And I'll be back in about 5 minutes' time with the next session. Bye for now.
Thanks, David.
Party
Thanks,
on,
David.
guys.
Thanks.
See you.